Hi again. In task 7.5, I'm going to tell you what is the meaning of ecological pyramids, how they are drawn, and why should we understand what these pyramids are. So just before this task in module 7.4, in module 7, task 7.4, you studied about flow of energy in ecosystems through food chains. So food chains actually tell you about what is the habit or nature of plants and animals in that ecosystem and what is their feeding style. Whereas when you study about what ecological pyramids are, they are just diagrammatic representation. You will see block-like diagrams. One trophic level represents one block, and over the trophic level there is another drawn as a smaller or larger block. What does this ecological pyramid show? It shows how energy is flowing from one trophic level to another. Sometimes it's also showing the population size of each trophic level, and sometimes it tells how much energy is moving from one trophic level to other and how much is getting lost. It also tells about biomass, that is how much energy is stored as your flesh or tissue in your trophic level. So we'll study about these three types. So three types of ecological pyramids, which are also called food pyramids. You can notice that I have highlighted pyramid of numbers and energy in red because this is in your syllabus. Pyramid of biomass is just for your knowledge. So let's begin with the first type of pyramid, that is pyramid of numbers. So first of all, try to understand these pyramids in 3 dimensions. So these pyramids look triangular in each phase, and therefore in 3 dimensions you can clearly see that the base is broader and the top is narrower. So that broader base and narrower top shows the quantity. Okay. Now let's look at this diagram. At the bottom of the pyramid are the producers, showing that they are largest in number in an ecosystem. Then as you go to the higher and higher trophic level, that is primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary, the number of the organisms in those trophic levels keep decreasing. Pyramid of number can be upright. What you're seeing on screen right now is an example of an upright pyramid. Means the narrow tip is at the top and the broad base. So this is a graphical representation of number of individuals per unit area in the trophic level. Large numbers of producers tend to form the base, and lower number of top carnivores occupy the top. Something more about pyramid of number is that the shape of the pyramid of number will change from ecosystem to ecosystem. In aquatic ecosystem and grassland communities, autotrophs means the plants. Auto means self, troph means feed. They make their own food. So autotrophs are present in large numbers per unit area. For example, in grasslands, the autotrophs are the grasses. Or in aquatic ecosystem, the autotrophs are the aquatic plants like kelps, seaweeds, and other aquatic plants which grow at the bottom of the river, pond, or lake. So these plants or autotrophs are highest in their population. There are a large number of individuals. So they will be at the base and they are the broadest. A lesser number of herbivores, which in turn support a fewer number of carnivores. Now try to understand that when producers are in large number, that is plants are in large quantity, that will be sufficient for sufficient to satisfy a large population of herbivores. But if the population of herbivores is say 100 herbivorous animals, 2000 carnivores cannot sufficiently get food in that place. So the number of carnivores will be restricted to the amount that will be satisfied by that number of herbivores. So the number of carnivores will be lesser than the number of herbivores, so that the energy demands are met. Now this is another type of pyramid of number where the pyramid of number is inverted. If you notice, the first one on the left shows pyramid of number when you're trying to draw an ecological pyramid diagram of a tree ecosystem. Remember, an ecosystem is anything which has a biotic and abiotic components interacting. So a single tree can also be called as an ecosystem, and here the tree is the producer and it is just one in number. So the base of this pyramid is narrow, but this tree has multiple number of branches and leaves, and each branch could be a habitat of different types of insects or different types of birds. Okay, so all these herbivores living in the branches and different um, say squirrels or birds, they will come as the primary consumers. Now you must be thinking, why are insects the secondary consumers here? They should be over here in the middle block. Over here, actually, the insects shown are the parasites that live in the bodies of the pigeon or different birds or different other animals like squirrels. So one animal can have hundreds of parasites on their body. So therefore, you can see that the population of the parasites is the largest in this pyramid. So the number pyramid can be an upright pyramid, or it can be an inverted one. Sometimes it is spindle shaped. Spindle shaped means it will be broader in the middle and narrower at the top and the base. Here is a grassland ecosystem pyramid which looks like a spindle. So there's one tree which gives fruits, leaves, and all herbaceous parts as food to the deer, elephant, and many other birds and other animals living near the tree. Now, these herbivores can be attacked and hunted and eaten by foxes, snakes, and lizards living around or under the tree's shade. And these secondary carnivores like snakes and lizards can also be hunted and eaten by tertiary carnivores like tigers and lions. So you can see that the size of the blocks are showing their number. Now coming to some advantages and disadvantages of pyramid of numbers. You can pause the video over here and try to read the points and make sense of it. Thank you for pausing. So the advantages of pyramid of number is it's simple to understand. You look at the pyramid and you'll know which trophic levels population is most, and not exactly population, community. Which community is more in number in this ecosystem, and which trophic level has less number of communities living in it and less individuals in that area. This is good for comparing one ecosystem with the other based on different seasons. So in different seasons, which ecosystem will have more living organisms, a grassland or a forest? To compare that, you can use this pyramid of number. Some disadvantage is that the number of species are so many that you can't exactly count how many deers, how many zebra, or how many grass plants are there. It's not accurately counted. So you always take an approximate number. And also pyramid of number does not count the babies or the immature or juvenile forms. So they always count the adults. All organisms are included regardless of size, hence inverted pyramids. Now size is not taken into consideration. So even if there is one tree which is huge, the size of the block of representing the tree will be small. Even though the tree is huge, the biomass is large. So these are some disadvantages and that can confuse people. Now let's look at pyramid of biomass. This is also a graphical representation of biomass present per unit area. Now what is biomass? Biomass is the amount or the weight or the mass of each individual found in one unit area. I discussed about this in the previous task. So per unit, what is the per unit area? What is the different mass of different trophic levels? When you calculate this, you will always notice that producer's biomass is the largest. And how to calculate this? You calculate mass of one individual into how many of individuals like that person is found in that area. So if there are 10 deers, so deers are primary consumers. So whatever is the mass of one deer, you calculate it into 10. That is the mass of biomass of the deers per unit area in a habitat or in an ecosystem. It's mostly calculated in the units per gram square or per gram cube. Now biomass can also be inverted as well as upright. When is the biomass inverted? When the producers are smaller animals. Because they are small, the mass of each individual is small. So let's take an example of an ocean ecosystem, a marine one. So in an ocean, the algae which are found, these are tiny single cellular green plant-like microorganisms. They can do photosynthesis. Now these algae are eaten by more smaller microorganisms called phytoplanktons. Called zooplanktons. These are single cell animal like organisms. So they feed on these algae. Now these zooplanktons are eaten by smaller fishes, and the smaller fishes are hunted and eaten up by larger fishes like sharks or killer whales. So in this case, based on the size of each individual's body, the biomass will be smallest at the producer level and it will keep increasing at the top carnivore level because each carnivore is way huge. So per shark's body weight is a lot as compared to one algae in the producer level. So when you multiply them with the total number of individuals, the producer's biomass will be smaller than the um, top carnivore, that is the predator. So that's why their population is also restricted. You will not find 2000 sharks feeding on just 100 fishes. So only in one area there will be one or two sharks. That is their niche. Because if more sharks come, food will be short. Okay. So pyramid of biomass does not tell about number of individuals. It tells what is the mass of each trophic level. Again, pause the video to go through some advantages and disadvantages of pyramid of biomass. Thank you for pausing. Let's look at pyramid of energy. This pyramid will exactly tell how much energy is passing from one trophic level to another in the form of food and how much is getting wasted in the form of heat or respiration. So we should always remember that every ecosystem's main source of energy is the sun, because plants make their carbohydrates with the help of sun's energy. Without that, neither herbivores nor carnivores will get any food. So we are all dependent upon plants directly or indirectly. You can pause and read the points on this slide. So we'll move on now. This is a diagram showing what happens to the energy in each trophic level in a pyramid of energy. So let's say there is how much is this? About 10 lakhs. 10 lakh joules of sunlight is entering the Earth's atmosphere. Only 10,000 of those amount of joules of energy is the plant could capture. The rest of it either reflected back to the atmosphere or got absorbed by other gases in the air. So now plants used only 10% of it. Okay. So there is a mistake in this diagram. Actually, there should be another zero over here. So just consider that. Consider that only 100,000, not 10,000, 100,000 joules was utilized and converted into carbohydrates. So now sun's energy, 10% of it was only used to make carbohydrate, and the remaining 90% is lost. Now, these insects, butterflies, and all will come and feed on different parts of these plants. And when they feed on, they get only 10% of the energy that the plants have. Because while feeding, also, a lot of energy is lost in the form of respiration and heat. Now, suppose a mouse feeds on these insects, the mouse will only get 10% of the energy in the insect. So, as you go higher in the trophic level, what do you notice? 10% of energy is only passing into each trophic level, and remaining 90% is getting lost as heat and respiration and other wastes. Okay. This is another example. You can pause the video and take a look at how at each stage 10% of energy is being lost. Sorry, 10% of energy is being passed and remaining 90% is lost. So finally you see that the top predator gets very little amount of energy when it hunts the primary consumer. That is why the the ecosystem will have very less predators, because too many predators, if they overcrowd in one ecosystem, they won't get enough food. So from in this example, you can just say that the lion gets only 1 joule of energy from each deer. So if 10 lions live in that place, that will lead to competition. And ultimately there will be fights, and some lions will either die or they will migrate. They'll move to another place. So this idea was actually given by an ecologist called Lindemann, and this is called Lindemann's 10% law. According to this law, transfer of energy from one trophic level to another trophic level is only 10%. Remaining 90% is lost. So only 10% of energy from the sun goes into the plant, and from that 10% will go into the deer or the herbivore, and whatever the deer eats, when the lion hunts, deer will only contribute 10% of energy to the lion. The remaining is always lost in the form of heat, respiration, and removal of wastes from our body. These are some advantages and disadvantages of pyramid of energy. You may pause and note them down. Thank you for pausing. And with that, we come with the final example. Let's take a look at this example of food chain. There are 3 pyramids. I will move my photo a little above. Yeah. So in this example of food chain, can you tell me which ecological pyramid is A, which is B, and which is C? You can pause, think, and then play. Okay, so in A, I am seeing that the producer level, always the base is the producer in all 3 pyramids, and the tip is always the final predator, the top carnivore. So here I am seeing that the base is very narrow. That means it's counting the individuals over here. So there's only a single tree in which flies live. Flies are eaten by the spider, and spider is eaten by the hawk. So I think, what do you think A is? It's probably the pyramid of number. In the second one, we see the biomass. And in the third one, we see energy. So that's your answer. Share in comments if you were correct or you made a mistake. Finally, this is very important. What do we conclude from learning about ecological pyramids? So first thing that we conclude is we need to study about pyramids to show what is the feeding pattern of organisms in the different ecosystem. Are there more herbivorous animals in it, or omnivorous or carnivores, or are the ecosystems dominated by producers? It will also give us how an insight of how inefficient the energy transfer is. Why am I calling it inefficient? Because only 10% of the energy that is trapped by the plant is being transferred level by level till the top predator. Lots of energy is actually getting lost into the atmosphere or the surrounding in the form of heat. The ecological pyramids also shows influence that a change in number of one trophic level can bring on other trophic level. This means when you look at an ecological pyramid, it tells you what will happen if the population of herbivores or the community of secondary consumers suddenly vanish because of some natural calamity or human activity. How that will affect the trophic levels above and below it. Also, when data are collected over the years, the effect of the changes that take place in the environment on the organism can be studied by comparing this data. So if you study ecological data of the same ecosystem at different times of the year, you can get a connection, or you can do further research and find because of which factor the ecological pyramid is staying the same or it's changing. So that will help you to think of better preventive measures or protective measures to save these organisms. The last point is important for us as humans to understand. If an ecosystem's conditions are found to be worsening over the years because of pollution or hunting, these are certain human activities which interrupt natural ecosystems, then actions can be taken to prevent further damage and possibly reverse some of the present damage. Reverse means bring the ecosystem back to its natural form, which is very, very difficult. So these are some important reasons because of which us as learners should understand why ecologists represent energy flow as a pyramid. So you can, after this video, share few important points that you will take away from this lesson.